So, yesterday we reviewed some vocabulary words and talked about organisms. We talked about an organism being any living thing. Then we talked about producers, which are plants that produce their own food. We talked about consumers, like us, who consume or eat food in order to get their energy. And within those consumers, we talked about carnivores and how carnivores eat all meat. Herbivores eat all plants, and omnivores eat both. So let's take all of that and let's see how it fits into a food chain. So in this example, this is a forest food chain. And a food chain is just a transfer of energy from one organism to another. The energy starts with the sun. Now, the sun isn't part of the food chain, but that's where the food chain gets its energy. Because we said that in a food chain, we have a producer who produces its own food. Well, we know that plants have to have sun in order to survive. So look at this example of this forest food chain. We have the energy from the sun, and that energy from the sun then it gets absorbed by the oak tree and that acorn. And that acorn is the producer. A little squirrel comes along, he's a consumer, and he's going to consume that acorn. So the energy that once was in the sun that has now flowed down into the acorn has now been eaten or consumed by the squirrel, so he has part of that energy. So the squirrel gets the energy from the acorn. The squirrel is a consumer. So then the squirrel goes off and plays, and let's say that he gets eaten by a snake. Well, that same energy that came from the sun, that went to the acorn, that the squirrel consumed and got, all of that energy now has been transferred to the snake. Later on, a hawk may come by and eat the snake. So now the hawk has all of that energy. So just like a chain of events, or just like a chain, that is how the food chain works. The energy starts with the sun, goes to the plant, which is the producer, and then the consumers start eating it, and then other consumers eat the prey, and all of that energy is passed through the food chain. So that was an example of a forest food chain. We also have ocean food chains. So look at this food chain, and you have algae. We know that algae grows in the ocean. Even deep, deep, deep in the ocean where we think that the sun isn't getting down to, the energy gets down to that. The krill eats that. The penguin may eat the krill, and then the whale may eat the penguin. So now you have another food chain. And sometimes it's called an ocean food chain, and sometimes it's called an aquatic food chain. Aqua means water, so aquatic means ocean food chain. Let's look at another one. You see the plankton, which are tiny little producers that grow down in the ocean. A fish may come along and eat the plankton, and then a penguin will come along and eat the fish, and then a leopard seal will come along and eat the penguin. So again, the way the energy travels from one organism to another, those are food chains. And we're going to learn tomorrow how we take these food chains and put them together to make food webs.